Ну что ж, начнем, пожалуй. Hello, everybody. One more time, I would like to thank you for coming and for your interest in our native breeds. Today is the time to talk about another native breed, very unique, and I would say really ancient. It is a Central Asian sheepdog. The story of this breed is over 4,000 years. The origin of this breed is Central Asia, which is reflected in its name, but some researchers mentioned also Africa, where some of forerunners of this breed were in existing that ancient time. This is the only hypothesis, and nevertheless, I would like to mention it. Anyway, the name is Central Asian, and it is not accidentally, because the breed already for a long time, for several thousand years, was widespread all over territory of Asia. Breed was developed in very severe conditions. Food is bad. Usually the rodents were the food. So you can imagine how difficult it was to survive in these conditions. Plus, it was a tradition not to live alive the puppies females. Only males were the subject for the interest of people working with these dogs. Besides that, I have to say that bitches were mated in the first season, which didn't give them right time to grow up and to be mature. In these conditions, in these life conditions, it was really very difficult to survive. So those representatives of the breed, those specimens survived really, which were strong and high-spirited. From this position, we have to consider the dog, this breed, that conformation, which reflects specific of the earliest time, still have the influence on the appearance of this breed. In front of you, you have two dogs. One dog from the right was a real dog. This time he would be 21 years old. He was my world winner in Portugal, 2001. And he was the best specimen of the breed I have ever seen and judged. Gorgeous dog. From the left, you can see picture, which is like a copy of this dog. And we will use this copy for the further explanation. About the explanation. To understand deeply the provisions of the standard and for deeper understanding of its specifics, I will use the model approach, which includes two models: biomechanical model of the dogs and harmonic model of the dogs. The first model is devoted to the soundness, as well as the second one is devoted to the harmony. These models are resulted by long years researches done by me during 24 years from 1963 to 1987, and based on the specifics of the Soviet breeding strategy. According to that strategy, the only breeding commission of each breed club was in charge of the breeding plan, not the owners of the brood bitches. I was elected that time as the member of this committee, and in a short time, I became status of the chairman of the breeding committee. That plan included per year about 300 to 400 brood bitches. You can imagine how huge was these statistics. And a hypothesis appeared during breeding process, where I checked for the trustfulness. Biomechanical model of the dog is integrity of postulates. Harmonic model of the dogs is integrity of harmonious proportions. Later on, I have defended the doctoral dissertation in biology named Dog Conformation Improvement through Biomechanical Model of the Dog. So the previous hypothesis became afterwards status of the scientifically proven facts, and you can fully trust them and use in your practice. Both biomechanical model and harmonic model are of practical value. Judges can find here universal reference points which help them to increase the objectivity of their assessment. Breeders can find here the selective algorithm for acceleration of breeding progress. Now we can go directly to these models. I will briefly tell about each of them. So in front of you, you can see the picture with lines and angles illustrating postulates included in the biomechanical model. And the very first postulate, not only because of the order, but also because of the value, is a postulate named 2-1-1. What does it mean? That the proportions of the top line from the first thoracic vertebra to the tail set are divided by spinal divisions thoracic part of the spine, lumbar part of the spine, and sacrum, according to the ratio 2-1-1. When 2 units fall on the thoracic part of the spine, 1 unit falls on the lumbar part or on loin, and the last 1 unit falls on the sacrum. I have to accentuate it, that the thoracic part I will call back, actual back, and no any other part of the spine will be called back. The only thoracic part of the spine. The next postulate, named 90 degrees angle by the axis of the pendulum. So you can see. You can see 2 blue lines. The left one, oblique line, goes along the median line of the shoulder blade. And the right one, oblique one, connects hip and iliac tuber. In the point of intersection is created the angle, which meaning is 90 degrees. So this angle is right angle. For convenience, I will conditionally call it pendulum, but it should not be understood textually. This vertical line lowered from the point of intersection is the line where the center of gravity is located. Катюш, пожалуйста, следующую картинку. Две горизонтали. Third postulate or third principle is the principle of two horizontal lines. The first one is connecting humeroscapular joint and hip. The second one connects elbow joint and knee joint. Somehow the picture is missing, but it doesn't matter because everything is painted here. Principle of two verticals. Just a moment. The first vertical is created by the condition elbow joint is under the withers, under the top of withers. The second one, this one, is created by the principle knee joint is under the tail set. So we can move. This picture is a conclusion of the previous postulate. I will not explain you now what does it mean, but when giving the comments, I will do that. I will use this picture and explain this principle. Хорошо. Next postulate. Length of the body and the distance between front and high legs are equal. I have to accentuate that I measure length of the body from the sternum, not from the shoulder joint, humeroscapular, from the sternum. Otherwise, part of body located in front of humeroscapula will be lost. And the whole body length is this one. And the distance between front and rear legs to be measured when dog is in correct stance. What do I mean? That the elbows moved under the body and the hind legs, at least one of them, is placed behind to the vertical rear pasta. So, length of the body and distance between front and hind legs are equal. Наверное, мы можем идти к началу и к комментариям. Now I will give some comments to this postulate, even it is not necessary, because you know that postulate is the statement which does need to be proved. So principle, это мы уже видели и любовались, надеюсь. So principle 211, what does it mean? First of all, if you use this principle when breeding, it will give you several positive results. The dog built according to this principle will have strong top line, compact body, namely short coupled or with a short loin, deep chest reaching the elbow level, and in the first approximation, correct angulation in front and in the rear, and balance between them, as well as the correct format. What is the format? It is the Russian zootechnical term, which means that we compare length of the body and height at width and divide first to the second. In our practice, it should be also multiply 100%. Then it will be format according to our terminology, canine terminology. This principle is important so much, and it will be clear after I will tell you about the harmonic model, that without this principle, soundness and harmony couldn't be reached. I will give the explanation for that, but later on. Second postulate. 90 degrees angle by the axis of the pendulum. This principle creates preconditions for the balanced movement. With other words, equality of the front and rear strides. Also later on, you will see how it works. Besides that, it means that the slope of the shoulder blade and slope of this bone of the pelvis, iliac bone, both slopes or slants are not independent. And their dependence is because of the 90 degrees angle. They are perpendicular. Let's go on. These lines, when dog is moving, are oscillating contrary, in antiphase, and they compensate oscillations each other. And finally, these oscillations do not change the horizontal position of the spine, which ideally should be level when dog is moving. It could be easily explained. The motive thrust from the rear, when it reaches the iliac tuber, to be transmitted to the front. And this transmission should be executed along the spine. And in case of level spine, dog should not work to lift the center of gravity. And that's why it's not tiring. That's why, and this is conclusion, principle of two horizontal line block lift of the rump when dog is moving, because they mutual oscillation remain the top line level. Теперь принцип двух вертикалей. Вернемся к первой картинке, которая биомеханическая модель. Самое начало, Катюш. Principle of two verticals. I remind you. First vertical connects elbow joint and top of the width. Another one connects knee joint and tail of the set. And because of that, upper arm is slanting backwards at maximum. And this is extremely important because the optimal meaning of the shoulder angulation or humeroscapular angulation is 90 degrees. In reality, it is between 100 and 110 degrees. The more behind in the physiological limits is moved backwards the elbow, the more close to this right angle, and this is the right angle, approaching this real angle of humeral scapula. The same is here, because with this condition, the knee joint is moved a bit forward, and this set, this slant or slope, if you like this term better, creates the right angle with a sciatic bone. Right angle between these two elements is also extremely important because, as you know, this is the best economical condition for the functioning of the joint. Minimum power will be used, will be spent if these elements are perpendicular. Moreover, the sciatic bone, its length is more than welcome, because here are placed unbending muscles, extensors. In case of the hind leg placed forward under the body, it's not painted here, but you can imagine. The other opposite upper thigh should be perpendicular to the iliac bone, because here are located bending muscles, flexors. So in each case, either front or rear, principle of two verticals provides the optimal meanings of these angles. Okay, we can go on. So I have promised to explain what does it mean mentioned here. Please take a look. I connected first vertebra and the first thoracic vertebra and tail set. And here I have connected elbow joint and knee joint. Inside, you can see the spine. The spine and the lower horizontal line are parallel. A little bit longer is the real top line because of the different height of the vertebra. This height is decreasing backwards. That's why the top line is a little bit sloping from the withers to the tail set. But inside is the level spine. So we can say that practically top line and this segment between these two joints are equal in the length. Why is it important? You can see elbow is under the withers. Knee joint is under the tail set. That means that the top line at its ends is supporting by two joints. And here is a mobile support, virtual support, but nevertheless, it's functioning and is softening all violations which appear when the dog is jumping and landing. And finally, through the system of levers, these violations are transmitted to the spine, being very much reduced, which helps the spine to remain. One more time, length of the body from the sternum to the end of buttock, and distance between front and rear legs, if the dog is put in correct zootechnical position, are equal. Why? Let us imagine that there are no any angulations and the limbs of the dog are like legs of the chair, absolutely straight and perpendicular to the ground. In this case, it's obviously that the distance between so-called legs is equal to the length of the body. And now the body is moved forward by the system of levers. And if you imagine that regarding front legs, body is moved forward differently than regarding hind legs, that will mean that the front strides and the hind strides are not equal. And this is bad, because in this case, our dog cannot move being balanced. And the balance of movement starts from the equality of this front and the rear strides. So, this is biomechanical model. And I will shortly sum up before to go to the harmonic model. As I promised, the biomechanical model will be helpful for the judges if they like to judge, to evaluate the dog conformation with minimum of subjectivity. It is very easy to check by hands these proportions. This is the first reference point. It could be easily find middle. As well, it would be easily find the middle of the second part. And or either your dog is built according to this proportion or no. And you will be immediately confirmed by your hands what is in reality given to this dog. Another thing, if you are in doubts about the balance between front and rear angulations, please check humeral joint, humeroscapular joint, and hip. Do they lie on the same level or no? The same with the elbow joint and knee joint. Let me tell you, the most variable elements of the dog construction are loin and upper thigh. The first is going to be lengthened. The second is going to be shortened. And this is because of very powerful influence of primitive nature. If you don't care about these elements, the whole picture, the overall picture, will be destroyed. The dog will be not sound, and harmony will not a feature of this dog. So you can see real reference points which will increase the objectivity of your assessment, as well as the last one. Elbow is under the withers. Oh, no. Knee is under the tail set. Oh, no. So if you keep in mind this picture, your judging will be much more simplified, even if you have to judge new breed, because this approach is universal and was confirmed during my long judging experience. This year I'm judging 53rd year. So you can be sure and fully trust. Thank you. We can follow to the harmonic model of the dogs. So harmony of the dog, and in principle term harmony is given from above to each of us in our feelings. But to feel is, of course, excellent, but not enough. What is enough? Enough is to know laws of harmony. Like in music, many of us are talented having a musical ear. How many professionals are between us? How many musicians? Only those people who studied theory of harmony, contrapunct, and on. The same is here. It is not enough to feel harmony and disharmony. You have to know exactly what are the proportions in charge of the complete harmonical or harmonious build. So as the tool, what I used to find out these proportions in the dog construction, I used the golden section principle. Golden section, according to Euclid, who lived in 3 centuries before Christ, based on the division of the whole segment O1 in extreme and mean ratio. What does it mean? The whole segment, which is 1, this is 1, to its biggest part, x, this is x, is the same as the biggest part, x, to the smallest one, 1 minus x, 1 minus x. This simple proportion could be easily transformed into the square equation. And the positive root of this equation is this one. Square root from 5 minus 1 and all divided to 2. If I will calculate and look for rough approximations, I will get in the third approximations this number, next up will be this one, and the most rough approximation will be this, 0.6, which is 3 to 5. So please keep this number in your mind. The golden section was very well known from the ancient time. It was used by architects of pyramids. Later on, it was well known in the ancient Greece, and the name of glorified Phidias is well known for many people. The golden section and Phi, the initial letter of his name, meant the same. What else? 3 centuries before Christ and next 16 centuries before Leonardo da Vinci and Luca Pacioli were mentioned in the book La Proporzione Divina, written by Luca Pacioli, who was monk and mathematician. La Proporzione Divina was the name of the book, and Luca Pacioli, according to his idea, La Proporzione Divina was considered as the harmonic principle of the universe. And Leonardo da Vinci was the illustrator of this book. But he was the person who renamed La Proporzione Divina into the golden section, Sectio Aureo. And this last name remained afterwards. Not too many people know La Proporzione Divina, divine proportion, the proportion given by God. It was interesting that 4 centuries before them, in the 12th century, another mathematician, also Leonardo Fibonacci from Pisa, solving problem concerning rabbits, received the sequence which became famous worldwide. Very easy sequence. 1, 1, 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 plus 5 is 8, and on. He modified this sequence to this. How did it? He divided each previous member to the second one, to the next one. 1, 1 second, 2 third, 3 fifth, 5 eighth, 8 13ths, and on. You can see I highlighted in red 3 to 5, 3 fifths. You can find it here as well. And it's not accidentally, because the limit of this sequence is golden section, the same number. And each number of this sequence is the rough approximation of the golden section. But we took 3 to 5 as the approximation we accepted as the rough meaning of the golden section, because in our practice, when we are measuring the dogs, the mistakes of our measuring exceed that, I will say, tail which we neglected. 3 fifths. But not only this is interesting. Now let me say to you that we have the moment of truth. Please look at these three red numbers. 1, 1, 2. Do they remind you anything? I believe yes, because in the reverse order, 2, 1, 1, they are the same numbers which determine the correct proportions of the top line. And now it is clear why those numbers are so important for the top line proportions, because without them, the harmony, the sequence could not be built, and the golden section or perfection or harmony, it is the same, will be not reached. So any violations of the top line proportions, when the top line is divided not according to the ratio 2, 1, 1, will not lead to the perfection, will not lead to the harmony. So please remember that. This conclusion could not be found or discovered in the framework of the biomechanical model of the dogs, because it belongs to the golden section, to the field of the harmony. And harmony is more than only beauty for our eyes. Our eyes from the nature are in tune with the golden section. And this is the reason why we, without any knowledge about the harmony, are able to appreciate beauty and harmony as well as disharmony. But many people feel differently, and the only knowledge of exactly rules of harmony can give us the objective way to evaluate real construction. It is from one hand. From another hand, the beauty is very nice to see. We are very pleased to see beautiful things. But the harmony is not only beauty, it is also function. What do I mean? As the example, I can remind you about the Fabergé egg, Fabergé Easter egg, which he has chosen and the symbol of harmony. Egg is built according to the golden section because his cross diameter to the longitudinal diameter are 3 to 5. Maybe you know that it is practically impossible to crush the egg squeezing evenly in your hands, and this is true. The shape of the egg is built so especially that it gives him maximum durability. Why? Because inside is the embryo, and embryo is new life, and the egg is the symbol of new life. So you can see how connected beauty and function. Golden section gives to the forms at the same time beautiful shape and optimal functions. You can read about that in more details in my book, Dog Conformation in its Evaluation, which is available usually in UK in Our Dogs. Topic of today is still something different. And now I will tell you about the harmonious proportions of the dog conformation, which I was lucky to find more than 30 years ago. And after that, we will go directly to the standards. Now, please, depth of the chest from the elbow joint, please be careful, not from elbow ulna, but from elbow joint to the top of the withers, and length of the top line from the first thoracic vertebra to the tail set, create golden section, 3 to 5. Next one, please. Length of the chest to the length of the body is 3 to 5. It is not necessary, I believe, to repeat what does it mean when I am saying about the body length, but chest length is the part of this length, and the end of the chest we can find in this point of intersection. This is a last rib position, and this is a line connecting humeral scapula and buttock. So it is a 3 to 5. Or, if you remember, if you imagine that this is the segment which I used as the illustration of the golden section principle in the beginning, it is O1 and this is X. So the whole length to be the biggest one is the same, is the biggest one to the smallest one. So it could be considered as 3 to 5 or 3 to 5, the same. Let's go on. Length of the body to the length of the diameter is golden section, 3 to 5. Length of the body, it is already determined and considered, not necessary to repeat. What does it mean, this blue segment connecting the occiput and the paw of the hind leg placed to the behind to the vertical rear pasta? We connect these points, but they do not belong to one vertical plane parallel to the longitudinal axis of the body. So we have to understand that this segment should be projected to the vertical plane, and it should be in real life considered from, I go out from the plane. But projection to the vertical plane parallel to the longitudinal axis and plane where is the hind leg, this one. Height at elbow and the sum of head and neck length create golden section. And the last one, please. Is the girth of the muzzle to the girth of the skull is 3 to 5. Now let's go back to the beginning. the deeper is the chest, the longer is the top line, and vice versa. The longer is the top line, the deeper is the chest. And this gives harmonious proportion to the build. No more explanation at the moment, later on. Next proportion, please. According to this proportion, chest is the longest part of the body. 5, and this is 3. I can use this principle for some interesting fact, according to which I can state that the front legs carry about 2/3 of the weight, while the hind legs carry no more than 1/3 of the weight. Look at this. This is 5 and this is 3. So this is 3 to 5 or 0.6. But in the front, from the humeral scapula, we have the big part of neck plus head. And here we have only rear part of the second thigh, rear pastern, and tail. So head and neck adds to this part more than this one adds to this part. And if the previous proportion was 0.6, this one to that one, or this one to that one, that means that front part, including neck and head, is a bit heavier than the final rest, including part of the second thigh, rear pastern, and tail. That's why it was 0.6, and now it is going to be 0.67, or 2/3. Keep in your mind, please, this is the rough answer to the question, how much weight to carry front legs and how much of dog weight do carry rear legs. Let us imagine that this dog starts moving. Head and neck will be moved forward and hind legs will be moved backwards. And this line connecting occiput and hind legs will be lengthened. So this segment is oscillation with a changing dog's position from stance to the walk, from walk to the trot, from trot to the gallop. And this oscillation will be around the golden section. For the future, we will see the picture dog on the move. And I will come back to this proportion, explaining how do they compare length of the body and swing of the limbs close to the ground, to the moment of landing. Now, this is the only remark, but the explanation and interesting result to be given later on. Very interesting proportion. And you can understand that both of them, this and this one, take a part when dog is moving. Now please direct your attention to this yellow line. At the moment of landing, eye and paw of front leg should lie on the one vertical line. And this could be provided if the ratio between the front leg and some of the head and neck are in the ratio according to the golden section. Otherwise, it will not happen. And this could be considered as the criterion of the correctly extended trot. I will not explain now anything else. I will use it later on when reading the standard in part of movement. Now it's enough. Look at this, blue ovals. No. We have already considered it. Была правильная картинка, да, спасибо. You remember that 3 to 5 distinguish the shape which is built by the golden section by the optimal meaning of its function. In this case, it means that the dog with this proportion, 3 and 5, have the most powerful bite, which in case of the Central Asian dog is extremely important. This is the life condition to survive in this severe life. Powerful bite, very strong jaws. In front of you, you can see the book. This is the book of my mentor, of Alexander Mazover. He was, at that time, the most knowledgeable and most talented person in the world of the Soviet sinology. He wrote several books, and these books named Conformation and Breeds of the Working Dogs was published in Moscow in 1947. Among other chapters in this book, there is a chapter devoted to the Central Asian dog, Central Asian Shepherd. And you can see at this picture how the representative of this breed looked that time. Very much similar to the dogs we used to see today. I would like to read you the description of the breed given by Mazover that time. I will translate you right now his text, so please be careful, tolerate my translation. Maybe sometimes it will be not too soft. According to this description, remember, 1947. Middle Asian sheepdog is the dog of big size with a massive bones, somewhat slow when moving. Character is fierce and alert. Head is massive with a wide, coarse skull. Cheekbones are strongly pronounced. That's why the head looks especially wide. Stop from the forehead to muzzle is hardly visible. Muzzle is a bit shorter than skull, wide below eyes, and almost is not tapering towards the nose, almost rectangular. In profile, muzzle is blunt with a massive jaws and wet, thick, a bit pendulous lips. Nose is wide and big. Eyes are wide and set and look forward. Round in shape, varying in the color of iris from light yellow to the almost black. Preferable are eyes with tight eyelids. Even often we have wet eyelids, which is typical for the dogs of a lymphatic type. Ears are hanging, not big, triangle, usually very short, cut in the very early age. Teeth are large, white, with a normal scissor bite. Neck is short, powerful, with an excellent developed nape, set low. Body is elongated. Format is between 105 to 108. Quite often there are square-bodied or opposite two long-bodied dogs. Both forms should be considered undesirable. Withers sharply pronounced, especially by males. Very often in the region of withers, coat is longer, which accentuate the sharp connection with the back. Back is wide and level. Loin is short, wide, a little bit arched. Croup is wide, long, somewhat horizontally set. Chest is broad, long, with a sprung ribs, but not barrel-shaped. Breastbone should be placed at the same level as the elbows or even lower. Belly slightly tucked up. Tail is feathered. Usually should be cut when puppies are born. Humeral scapula is about 90 to 100 degrees. Forearm long, massive. Wrist wide and strong. Pastern short, wide, and straight set. Rear legs parallel set. Somewhat straightened hock, should be dry and with a very pronounced heel bone. Rear pastern short, massive, almost upright. Coat is coarse, hard, with excellent developed undercoat, could be short, intermediate, and long. It is a description how many centimeters has each variety. Color by the majority of the Central Asian sheepdogs is white and spotted with a gray, red, and black spots, and very often we can see beloved in the central region of Turkmenistan, black dogs with a white chest and legs, as well as the white color and brindle. Height at withers 65 to 75 centimeters, bitches 60 to 68 centimeters. Sometimes there are taller dogs. There are descriptions of several types deviating for the normal type. I will not read it. And in the final, it is written, special attention should be directed to the correct dental system and bite, and to the angulations of the limbs. So you have an idea how did they like the time? More than 70 years ago. But this breed has 4 or even more thousand years of its history, and it was developed naturally, natural selection and very strict conditions of their life, where the factors which created this dog with its specifics reflected in the standard and remaining at the modern time. So now I'm ready to go to the valid, to the current FCI standard. I will read it, and as usually I will give the comments sometimes and use the provisions of the model approach when it's needed. USSR, regions of Central Asia, patronage, Russia, utilization, guard and watchdog, Molossoid breeds, mountain type without working trial. Brief historical summary. Central Asia shepherd dog is one of the most ancient breed of dogs. They were formed as the breed from natural selection during more than 4,000 years in the vast territory which spreads nowadays from the Caspian Sea to the China and from southern Ural to Afghanistan. Its heritage is from the most ancient dogs of Tibet, cattle dogs from various nomad tribes dogs that are closely related to the Mongolian shepherd dog and the Tibetan mastiff. The Central Asian were mainly used to protect cattle, caravans, and the owners' dwellings, and being exposed to the rigid natural selection. Hard living conditions and constant struggle against predators have had influence on the shape as well as the dog's character, and it has made it strong, fearless and taught it to save its energy. In the places of the Pramoideran habitation, the Central Asian were used mainly to protect herds and also were used as a guard dogs. The work with the breed started in the USSR in the 1930s. Please draw your attention on the point where it was written that they were obliged to save their energy in these very hard life conditions. Try to imagine the food was very poor, as you told already, mostly rodents. And the selection was quite natural with these traditions and restrictions. So when I will tell you about specific of the shape and the typical stance when they are in rest, do not forget this accent. General appearance. The Central Asian sheepdog is of harmonious build and large stature, moderately long, neither long nor short in body. A robust, muscular body, voluminous, but not with visible muscles. Sexual dimorphism is clearly defined. The males are more massive and courageous than females, with more pronounced withers and a larger head. Full maturity is reached by the age of 3 years. Go on. Important proportions. The length of the body only slightly exceeds the height at withers. Larger stature is desirable, but proportional constitution must remain. Length of the forelegs up to the elbow is 50 to 52 of the height at withers. The length of muzzle is less than 1/2 the length of head, but more than 1/3. Now let's analyze these provisions. At least one of them. Slightly long-bodied, it's visible. Height at elbows from 50 to 52% of the height at withers. Let me notice that usually measuring the height at elbows, they measure it at the level of the ulna, elbow ulna, but not elbow joint. And let us imagine that the dog is 75 centimeters tall. That means that, remind, 50% or 52. Let us calculate. 1% of the height is 0.75 centimeters. 2%, 1.5. So 1.5 centimeters could be difference between the height at elbows and the height at elbow, ulna and elbow joint. So the elbow joint is placed in the exactly in the middle of this distance. These parts, height at elbows and depth of the chest from the top of the withers to the elbow joint are equal. Now, beside that 2-1-1 proportion, if you remember, which distinguishes the top line. You can see the same proportion along the vertical line. Please take a look. This is in the middle. This is 2. Shoulder blade and upper arm are practically of the same length. That means that of the same slant or slope towards the horizontal line. This is the angle, and this is the contrary angle of the same meaning. That means that the vertical proportions, this is vertical proportion of the shoulder blade, and this is the vertical proportion of the upper arm, are also equal. So you can see 2, 1, 1 along the vertical. So dog is constructed in the accordance with the initial tuning to the golden section. These initial members of the Fibonacci sequence give the dog the possibility to be tuned at the basic level with the golden section. This is the first. Now, let me see what we have else. Oh, at the moment is enough. So, let's read the standard. Self-assured, balanced, quiet, proud, and independent. The dogs are very courageous and have high working capacity, endurance, and natural instinct of territory. Fearlessness towards large predators is a characteristic feature. Head. Massive and in balance with the general appearance. Head shape is close to rectangular, seen from above or side. So look at this beautiful head, very typical for the Central Asian Shepherd. I will read it now. Then we can see the head in front. Now it's profile. Massive and in balance with the general appearance. Head shape is close to rectangular, seen from above and side. Cranial region, deep in skull, deep in skull, deep in skull. The forehead is flat and the skull part is flat and long. Occiput is well defined, but hardly visible because of the well-developed muscles. Supraorbital ridges are moderately defined. Stop is moderately defined, deep in skull. So, no, I have already read it. Facial region, nose, large, well developed but not exceeding the general contour of the muzzle. Color of nose is black, but in white and fawn-colored dogs the nose could be light. Muzzle. The muzzle is blunt, of moderate length. And it is almost rectangular viewed from front, above, and sides, and narrowing very slightly towards the nose. Muzzle is voluminous, deep, and well filled under the eyes. Muzzle is voluminous, deep, and well filled under the eyes. It's visible. Bridge of muzzle is broad, straight, and sometimes with a slight down face. Chin is well developed. Chin is well developed. Lips, thick upper lips, tightly covering the lower lips when the mouth is closed. Full black pigmentation is preferable. A bit too wet lips, a bit. But this muzzle is not closed, this is closed. And the corner of the lips is a little bit wet. Jaws, teeth. The jaws are strong and broad. Teeth are large, wide, and close to each other. 42 in total. Incisors are set on a line. Scissors bite, pincher bite, and also reverse scissor bite is accepted. Canines are set well apart. An injury to the teeth does not affect the use of the bite, is of no consequence. Very important point. Needed to be explained. I read you all the description of the Central Asian shepherds in the Soviet time, when the only scissor bite was accepted. This standard, with two varieties of the bite, namely scissor bite, level bite, and reverse scissor bite, were approved in the standard 2000. It was resulted, but some changes happened in our country that time. After the Soviet Union was collapsed, many links were destroyed, and gene pool became rather narrow. So it was necessary to bring to Russia some new blood. And these specimens were imported from the Central Asia, mainly from Turkmenistan, because the breeders were looking for the strong dogs with a powerful underjaw, which should be extremely wide, as this feature was almost lost. It was a lot of the narrow underjaws, and it was not suitable for this breed. It was the time when very beautiful dogs were imported, but they had wrong bite compared to the scissor bite. The dogs had level bite or undershot. So, and it was the intermediate solution to accept all three kinds of the bite, to help the population to be developed in the right way concerning the general construction, high spirit, and powerful bite. It was done. Later on, the same varieties were accepted again because it would be not correct to stop these kinds of bite. Otherwise, all champions were in the pedigrees of the modern dogs could be considered from the wrong point of view. That's why, as the next intermediate step, it was repeated in the next edition of the standard. But now, our breeders are close to change their mind and come to the normal scissor bite, which could be considered as the ideal bite, but the first step, the deviation, like level bite or reverse scissor bite, could be also still accepted, but not desirable. In this aspect, I would like to draw your attention to this problem. But at the moment, all three kinds are acceptable. So we can go on.
Куда?
Just a moment, I will read now.
Which picture do you like to see now?
Cheeks. The cheekbones are long and well developed, without interfering with the rectangular shape of the head. The muzzle is so wide that even strongly developed cheekbones do not interfere with the rectangular shape of the whole head. This is important. Okay, now the eyes. Можно эту картинку оставить пока. Eyes medium-sized with an oval form set well apart. You can see. Looking straight ahead and moderately deep set. The color of the eyes from dark brown to hazel. The darker color is preferable. The eyelids are thick and preferably with a lower eyelid not too loose. No visible third eyelid. Fully pigmented eyes rims are preferred. Whatever the color of the coat, eye rims should be black. Expression is confident and dignified. You remember, nose, lips, and eyelids should be in black, regardless the color of the coat. And this is a sign of the correct pigmentation. Ears. Medium-sized, triangular shape, thick, low set, and hanging. Fabrizio, you are invisible to me, but I'm happy to hear your name. Thank you for coming. Can I continue?
Yeah.
Excellent. So please take a look to these heads. How different is expression? Of course, regarding the laws in different countries, the ears couldn't be docked, but these dogs were used and still are using against wolves. And the ears and the eyes, some other parts as well as the neck, for example, are very vulnerable. And to decrease this, ears were very shortly docked. It was obligatory. And it should be obligatory because in the country of the origin, we still are using these dogs. The same requirement is concerning the eyes, which should be rather small. Also, they are object to be damaged if they are large. So we can go on now. Lower part of the ear base is level with the or slightly below the eyes. This is the puppy. This is the puppy. Traditional ear cropping in the fashion illustrated on the cover is still practiced in the country of the origin and in the countries where it's not prohibited by law. Neck. My favorite picture. Neck. Neck is of medium length, very powerful, oval in cross-section, well-muscled and low-set. Dewlap is a specific breed feature. Ну, а вот теперь можно показать самую первую картинку, где был чемпион мира. И мы посмотрим на это место, а потом вернемся вновь к этой картинке. So, please take a look. This is a specific feature of this breed. Now we are coming back. Coming back. К модели, пожалуйста. Top line well proportioned and well sustained, and must keep typical top line in stats. I will explain you it a bit later on. Now I'm only reading the standard. Withers, well defined, especially in males, muscular, long and high. With well-defined transition to the back. Back, straight, broad, well-muscled. The actual length is about 1/2 of the length from the wither to the tail set. So this is the half of the top line. Long, short, broad, well-muscled. The actual length, a short, broad muscle, slightly arched. Croup, moderately long, broad, well-muscled, slightly sloping to tail set. Height at withers exceeds the height of the ram by 1 to 2 centimeters. Chest, deep, long, broad, distinctly developed, rib cage broadening towards the back, false ribs are long, lower part of the chest is level with the elbow or slightly below. Forechest extends slightly in front of the humeroscapular joint. Underline and belly is moderately tucked up. I will read about tail later on. Now I would like to come back to the body. So please take a look at this dog, this bitch. It is her right picture without any change. It is a rather young bitch. Well, it was the rather young bitch when she was pictured. And you can see what is the top line. And this top line looks differently than the top line was described in the standard. Now let me explain you this phenomenon and how should we appreciate this feature. If you remember, I accentuated your attention in the preface when I told that these dogs had to save the energy because of very strict, very severe life conditions. And you can see now the result of that when dog is standing, when it's in the rest. Let me remind you that the horses, when they are in rest, put their rear legs a little bit under the body. What happened? In this case, the only or almost only, bones are carrying the weight of the body. And even it is 1/3 of the whole weight, it is more than enough, because the hind legs function is not support, but drive. And they will use any possibility to reduce this loading. And then muscles and tendons are relaxed. The same is happening with the Central Asian Shepherd. They use this opportunity when they have to stand in a situation which is which should be used for they relax. What's happening? In this case, the angulations of hind leg are straightened, and the upper thigh is going more upright than when dog is moving, or in stance when the dog is alert and in tension. In this case, hip is going up, and this is placed above the level of the humerus scapula. Finally, it lifts the rump. And this line is very typical for dogs in situation when they are relaxed. Moreover, if the dog is young, there is another factor influences on the straightening of the angulations. Why? Because in the young age, and this age to be continued for Central Asians, until 3 years old, when they are going to be mature. Before that, they are still developing. And during this period, especially in the beginning, all the muscles of the dogs and partially muscles of the rear limbs are under the hypertonus. And because of hypertonus of the muscles, the joints are unbent. And it additionally works to lift the rump. So first of all, the condition which helps the muscles and tendons to be relaxed when the hind articulations are straightened. And the only or more or almost both carry the weight of the hind legs, plus hypertonus of rather young dogs, which works in the same directions, and it is a double influence to lift the rump. So with the age, when hypertonus is going down and muscles are more relaxed, the picture when dog is standing will be different, and you will see another more typical for other breeds top line. So please take a look at this picture. This is a mature adult dog. He reached the age of 3 years, and you can see the top line, which looks differently than the previous picture. But what is interesting, Катюша, мы возвращаемся к той картинке молодой собаки со слегка прогнутым верхом. But what is interesting, this picture with this top line, you will see how it will be changed when dog is moving. This is the same bitch and the same age, and you can see the shape of the top line. Dog is not in the relaxing situation. It works, and you can see how it is transformed. So the top line of the Central Asian dog, shepherd, should be evaluated finally when dog is moving. Tail thick at the base and set fairly high. The natural tail is carried in a sickle curve, curled in a loose ring that begins at the last third of the tail. When alert, the tail rises to the line of the back or slightly above, hanging at rest. Traditional tail docking in the fashion illustrated on the cover is still practiced in the country of the origin and in the countries where it is not prohibited by law. Natural tail is of equal value to a docked tail. Limbs, forequarters, general appearance. Forelegs are straight with a strong bone, seen from the front parallel and not close together. Seen from the side, their forearms are straight. Shoulder. Shoulder blade long, well laid back, forming an angle with the upper arm about 100 degrees. This is a small deviation, 100, 110. Well muscled. Upper arm oblique, long and strong. Elbow correctly fitting, turning neither in nor out, so directed backwards. Forearm straight, very strong bone, long oval cross section. Pastern, moderate length, broad, strong, upright pastures, almost upright. Forefeet, large, rounded, arching toes. Pads are voluminous and thick. Nails could be of any color. Hindquarters. General appearance. Viewed from the rear, straight and parallel. Set in a little wider than forequarters. Thigh. Upper thigh. Broad, moderately long and strongly muscled. Stifle, knee, turning neither in nor out. The knee angulation is moderate. Lower thigh, of almost the same length as the upper thigh. Hock joint, moderate angle. Rear pastern, very strong, of moderate length, perpendicular, no declose. Hind feet, large, rounded, arching toes. Pads are voluminous and thick. Nails could be of any color. Now let me repeat, please, what we have already told about. About 100 humeral scapula, or a little bit more. The same length, shoulder blade and upper arm. Elbow should be under the withers, and then it will provide the optimal meaning of the shoulder angulation, of the humeroscapular angulation. because to move elbow more backwards, it's impossible because of the physiological limits. So this is the maximum which could be provided by the slope of the upper arm. That's why upper arm should be long enough to provide the elbow at this point. And final position, to be under the top of the withers. The same is concerning the hind legs. The stifle should be under the tail set. Then it helps to the upper thigh to be a little bit slanted, a little bit inclined forward, which will give the dog possibility to a little bit sit on the knees. Let me remind you that for the young dogs, this oblique, slightly, even slightly oblique position sometimes is not present because of the hypertonus of the muscles, and that's why straighten angulations. As well, if you look at the dog, which is not intention, being in stance and pose is quite accidental, and the dog will place his rear a little bit under the body because it is the influence of his forerunners. It is the habit to save the energy, to let the muscles and tendons to be relaxed. But usually for the adult dogs, for the mature dogs, they are able to be in tension when it's needed, when they are judging. And the top line looks like it you can see at this picture. So we can one more time. Can one more time repeat this pair of joints are placed on the same level, as well this pair of joints is also on the same another level. Then it will help you to understand whether the dog is constructed correctly or no. There are no perfectly built dogs, of course. All of them have some faults, but you can evaluate deviation from the norms being based on these reference points: 211, 211, 2 horizontal lines, and 2 vertical lines. So now we can go to the movement. Well balanced and elastic. Trot with a free reach in the forequarters and with a powerful drive from the hindquarters. Top line is steady while moving. All joints to bend without effort. The angulations in hindquarters is more distinct when moving than in standing pose. The last sentence is concerning the point I have explained to you. When dog is in rest and typically placed under the body, somewhat placed, his rear legs. this is the reason of the last sentence, because when standing, the dog's angulations are a bit straightened if the dog is not in tension. But when moving, dog is in tension, and of course all angulations are better expressed. Now let us analyze what does it mean balanced movement. Look, the balance, the initial condition for the balance of movement is the equality of the front and the rear strides. Please take a look. This distance and this distance are equal. It is fulfilled here. The next one, these blue lines which form the pendulum, conditionally called the pendulum, not textually, has the 90 degrees by the axis of this pendulum, and they defined the boundaries for the span of the limbs. And close to the ground, close to the phase of landing, these limbs being in this swing should inscribe in this right angle. One more time. These blue lines define the boundaries for the span of the limbs. Another thing, another criterion, the hind legs from the opposite side converging to the base of the vertical line lowered from the point of intersection, because at this line is located center of gravity, and then hind leg, when it reaches the base of this vertical line, provides maximum stability of the dog at this phase and minimize wobbling of the whole body. Let me please to remind you how to understand it easily. If we imagine that you are in bus, where have you to find the point, the place to be wobbling as minimum as possible? Yes, you have to stand at the center of gravity. Then you will be wobbling as minimum as possible. The same is happening here. It is the principle which is called in theoretical mechanics the principle of converging powers. It is provided here. And the last one, eye and paw of the front leg at the moment of landing or close to it lie on one vertical line. This is necessary for the equilibrium when dog will be landing, because in this case the dog is a little bit in advance to this equilibrium phase due to work of the vestibular apparatus, which is located in the ear, and eye is a little bit in front of the ear. So the dog has the time to be landing and at the moment of equilibrium. Watch your step, we are saying for the people. Смотри под ноги, мы говорим по-русски. And look at the last. The green lines at the trot are still parallel because they are oscillating contrary, and this is the phase when they are horizontally. And the top line remains the same contour, which is in the stance if the dog is in tension. This is, in my opinion, full description of the balanced and sound movement, except of course the parallel movement, which could be seen from behind and from front. It is not illustrated here. This is the side movement criterions. What else? Color. No, coat. Skin before. Thick, sufficiently elastic, loose lining to prevent injuries if in combat with the predators. Sorry. That's why typical for this breed is dewlap, which protects his neck. Coat. Hair. Abundant, straight course with a well-developed undercoat. Hair on the head and on the front part of the limbs is short and dense. Coat on the withers is often longer. The guard coat can be short or slightly longer. Depending on the length of the outer coat, there can be either shorter hair, 3 to 5 centimeters, covering the whole body, or with longer hair, 7 to 10 centimeters, which forms a mane on the neck. Feathers behind the ears and on the back parts of the limbs. And on the tail. Size and weight. Males minimum 70 centimeters at withers. Females minimum 65. Weight, males minimum 50 kilos. Females minimum 40 kilos. So about the faults. Usual sentence, everybody knows, and then slight deviations from the breed type. Female tending, male type. Rounded skull, narrow muzzle and narrow lower jaw, small nose. Eyes obliquely or close set, loose eyelids. Ears high set. Thin or loose hanging lips. High over the croup, slightly short croup. One more time. High over the croup. So, overbuilt dog or rump is too high. I believe that my explanation could help you to understand whether it is normal or it should be considered as the fault. Because the final criterion is the movement. And if dog, when is moving, has correct top line, like you see in front of you on the screen, then this high rump, when dog is standing, should be considered in the different tension of the dog. If the dog is always overbuilt, then it could be considered as the fault. But if it changes the top line from, if the dog is always with this top line, it could be considered as the fault, especially if the dog is mature. For the young dogs, it could be considered as a norm because of the hypertonus of the muscles. I explained it. For mature dogs, if it could be changed to the normal top line, you can ignore this accidental line due to specific feature of this breed. I explained already. That's it. So this is the point. Slightly short group. Let us explain this point with more details, please. Length of the group is resulted but by several elements. Length of the sacrum, which is the upper part of the group, and length of the pelvis. Sacrum, or upper part of the group, should be short, should be equal to 1/4 of the top line. But sciatic bones should be long, and they should provide finally length of the group. So you have to be careful when you are saying short group. Be careful. Narrow front. Exaggerated angulations in the hindquarters. This is not typical for the breed. Not typical. Splayed feet and long toes. Hackney gait, slightly unbalanced movement. You remember, what does it mean? Hackney. I will not describe it. This is a general fault, which is absolutely not typical for Central Asian dogs. Very short coat. Yes, this coat could not protect the dog from attack. Severe falls. Highly strung. Significant deviation from the required type and constitution. Constitution should be considered as the combination of the type and it's difficult to translate it into English because we have a very special terminology about it. But I will say behavior, nervous system, and psychics. If it's not typical for the breed, then it should be considered as the severe fault. Leggy appearance, light in bone, soft muscles. Eyes too light or bulging eyes. Top line falling away. Yes, top line should be sloping from withers to the tail set. Not typical. Croup much higher than the withers. So if the overbuilt construction is pronounced, or rump is too high, higher than the withers, for example, then it should be considered as the severe fault. Narrow, short, and steep croup, natural stubbed tail, kinked tail, pasterns too high, down in pasterns, soft pasterns. Hindquarters set too far under the body. Too far. A little bit, correct. Too far, severe fault. Disqualifying faults. Aggressive or overly shy dogs. Any dogs clearly showing physical or behavioral abnormalities. Timid, overexcited. Male or female type. Overshot or distinctly undershot bite. So, not reverse scissor bite, with a distance between arcades. Eyes of different color, blue or green eyes, squint. Loose joints, coat of any combination of genetic brown or genetic blue color. Special point, and I would like to explain what does it mean. So, color of the coat is brown or blue, and this is disqualifying fault. The definition genetic is not necessary here, because if we find dilute color not only of the nose but also of the lips and eyelids and pads, that means that this is because of the genetics. But to exclude any misunderstanding, it was put excessively definition, and it should be considered as how should I say, it belongs to the field of semantics. This is semantic repetition, pleonasm. So my explanation should give you the to understand clear the reason which was described in this place. Color that is tan with distinctive black mantle. Coat that is curly or soft, unbalanced movement. And nota bene, as usually, males should have two apparently normal testicles, fully descended into scrotum, and only functionally and clinically healthy dogs with very typical conformation should be used for breeding. So, we finish reading the standard. I gave my explanations and comments to the special points. Now it's a time to look at the dogs at the screen and describe them according to the standard and its requirements. So you can see clearly young dog, not mature. It's visible. Medium long-bodied with a rather big and a rather massive head. The top line, when behind the withers, you can find a slight depression. It is visible. And this is because of the a little bit straightened angulation of the hind legs, which are placed a little bit behind the body. This is the case I explained to you because of the two factors for this age. The first probably should be the too high tonus of the muscles. And the second is the habit to save the energy As in this case, the weight on the hind legs is carried by bones mostly and only partly by muscles and tendons. Correct front angulations, a bit straightened hind angulations, deep chest, quite prominent forechest, typical dewlap. Regarding head is large enough. Upper lines are correct. Blunt enough cut lips. Needs a little bit better developed underjaw. That's why this corner is so visible. Correct pigmentation. Let's go on. This is female. Medium long-bodied, high-legged, massive enough bitch. Light in the head. Head is also rather small, with a light muzzle. Long neck with a somewhat developed dewlap. Top line is typical for the young specimen because of a bit straightened forequarters. Good front angulations. Deep, massive enough, and a bit too narrow. Look at the front of the dog, which is still visible. And a bit straightened hind legs. A bit straight behind. Let's go on. Before we saw beautiful heads. It's not the example of when it could be described with the same positive result. Flat enough of a skull, slight stop, a little bit down-faced, light underjaw, a bit acute cut lips. Muzzle should have much more volume. This is too rounded. But what is good? Dark eyes, even a little bit too large. Large nose, excellent pigmented, as well as the lips and the eye rims. Let's go on. So, dog on the move. Young bitch, it's visible. Long-bodied, massive enough, with enough depth of the body. Head of a good shape, could be larger and more massive. Long neck, rather strong top line, a bit too sloping croup. Chest is deep enough, as I told already. Correct angulations, front and rear, which could be evaluated by some important points. Look, eye and paw of the front leg close to be landing are on one vertical line. This distance and this distance are equal. It is difficult to say exactly about the right angle. Maybe it is a blunt angle, but the dog is not exactly in profile, so I will say only exactly what I see for sure. Excellent pigmentation, nose, lips, eye-rims and pads. This is also a dog pictured not exactly in profile, so let us say about details which are visible exactly. Medium long-bodied with a solid body. Obviously young bitch. For this age, good depth of the body. Head should be larger with a stronger muzzle, especially with a stronger underjaw, and more blunt cut the lips. Head is neck is long, medium long, correct top line and tail set, almost equal front and hind strides, correct place of the hind leg converging to the base of the vertical line where center of gravity is located. A little bit too high step in front, but maybe the face is pictured not at the best moment. Nothing about pigmentation. So also the young bitch, medium long-bodied, with a correct top line, equal front and hind strides. The limbs span, inscribes in the right angle, and it seems to be that the eye and paw of the front leg moving to be landed, lie on one vertical line. So young, well-balanced bitch, the only head could be larger with a more stronger and more blunt. So excellent picture of correct movement. This is male, yes?
Mm-hmm.
A long-bodied male with a solid body, deep-chested. Head is not visible. I will not describe it. With a long neck, medium carrot, with an excellent top line, absolutely steady, correct tail, angulations allow the dog to provide equal front and hind strides. Both legs from our side are not close to the ground, so it could be that this angle is only blunt, because at the next moment, closer to phase of landing, it will approach to the right angle. At least this tendency is visible. I see this is the bitch. Young bitch, medium size, with a good for this age depth of the body, solid body. Head should be larger. Overhead, especially forehead, should be more flat. Muzzle is a bit too light, and cut of the lips should be better, more close to the blunt, and they are here a bit acute. correct limbs, strides, front stride and the rear stride are practically equal, and eye and paw of the foreleg going to be landed are on one vertical line. A right angle is practically provided as the boundaries of this movement. Another example, this is the mature dog, long-bodied with the excellent depth of the body, with a massive head, a bit too much stop, and muzzle could have more blunt outlines. Almost equal front and hind strides, correct placement of the hind leg at the face of support, perfect top line. The dog is not ready for landing. That's why the foreleg is in advance regarding the eye, is a bit ahead. Not the same moment when we could qualify if this criterion is provided or no. A medium long-bodied with a normal depth of the body, strong and massive enough male. Solid body with a correct top line and tail set. Head is strong enough, even with a correct size, and muzzle could be more blunt, a bit too acute cut lips. Correct position of the limbs, the equality of the front and hind strides are almost provided. The face is not pictured at the time when we could evaluate it exactly. The dog is fully suspended. Strong, massive, long-bodied dog, deep-chested, with a rather massive and big head, blunt enough muzzle, but this description is could be reconsidered. The head is a bit turned out, and I cannot see correct profile. So let us put aside this description. Medium long muscled neck, correct top line and tail set, excellent placement on the dog at this stage of movement. You can see equal front and hind strides, and the right angle fits to this span of the limbs.
And this is the last picture.
Катюша, а потом я вас попрошу вернуться к той самой собаке, на примере которой мы демонстрировали разницу в стойке и в движении. Хорошо?
Хорошо.
С вырисованными линиями. И без них. Помните?
Да.
Да. So, somewhat long-bodied, with a solid body, good depth of the body male, strong in bones, good in substance. Head is also turned out, so probably everything is correct. and this stop is accentuated because of the eyebrows or superciliary ridges. Medium long neck, well muscled, medium set, perfect top line and tail set, and practically correct placed the limbs under the body at the stage of swing. Almost equal strides, front and the rear. Precisely, I cannot evaluate it because the front leg is in the air. It's somewhat far away from the ground. Hind leg at the stage of support is under the body at the correct place. And the right angle is defining the boundaries of the limbs span. Now I would like to say to you something else after you saw the dogs on the move. And many pictures were in front of your eyes. With beautiful movement. Everything is very correct. Nothing is exaggerated. And in this case, when you have an excellent representative of the breed, you can discover quite new feature. You can take a screenshot and check what I'm saying right now. Length of the body and distance between these limbs is 3 to 5. And this is also golden section influence. I believe it is interesting. So, let me sum up what I was saying concerning the specific points of this breed. I will not repeat the usual things which are universal and are not changing from the breed to the breed. I will not describe the head because you saw beautiful heads, either in profile or in front, and you could remember this glance, this look very special. But I would like to repeat what is the part of specific features of this breed. Dog is standing, and top line has slight depression behind the withers because of the rear angulations at the moment when they are a bit straightened. This is typical for the young dogs. It could be also typical for the adult dogs because of the habit inherited of the forerunners to save the energy, as in this position of the hind legs, they carry the weight because of the bones much more and the muscles and the tendons are relaxing. When dog is in tension, the mature dogs can place their rear legs behind the body. Then they will lower the rump. Then this depression will be practically disappear. And for the young dogs, this tendency to straighten the hind legs and to lift a bit rump is also because of the hypertonus of the muscles. This is a very typical feature, and when judging, please do not forget and be very careful when we are going to say, oh, it is the overbuilt dog. Check when dog is moving. Катюш, еще раз посмотрим в движении эту же собаку. One more time the same bitch on the move when she's trotting. Look. It is the most beautiful example compared to the pictures I illustrated after the reading of the standard. And what is inside is the criterion for the judges. So for the professional judges, everything mentioned here, pictured here, painted here, should be clear. And sorry. And should give you the reference points which could help you to decrease the factor of or should I say it better, of subjectivity. This is what I would like to say you about this breed. Sorry if something was explained not the best, but anyway, I was trying to do my best. Still, if you have some questions, I'm waiting for them and I'm ready to answer.
No, I think we do not have questions for today.
Oh my goodness.
Because it was rather clear, I think.
Oh my goodness. I'm very happy. I'm very happy. And to the all audience, and Katya, скажите мне, пожалуйста, иностранцев много было?
Ну вот они здесь.
Но я-то их не вижу.
Половина.
Мне интересно. Я ведь... Половина? А какие страны были представлены? What countries were presented? I'm curious to know.
I see Italy, England, South Africa. What else? Israel.
Thank you so much. I'm very interested in your opinion, and would be happy to know what was new for you. What you got.
Mexico. From the question from Mexico. When yes. You are judging bite and the central law incisors go forward.
Look, I can accept the undershot when it is a reverse scissor bite, which means it happens when the underjaw is wide and line of incisors is correct. your example means that the two incisors, probably two central incisors, are in front of the whole underline. I will penalize that.
How strict?
Good.
It's, so it will be good. Italy, Italy, Italy.
Yes.
Let's see. Colleagues are answering from where they are. And then, if we do not have other questions, we can say goodbye to everybody. We will see you again in 2 weeks. Next week will be the break, and
I have a vacation.
You have a vacation. I have the trials in far away, and we will see you on December the 1st. Yeah.
And next time we will consider the Caucasianship dog.
Кавказская овчарка у нас в следующий раз. Итак, спасибо большое, Евгений Львович.
Спасибо, Катюша.
Ну что, да, прощаемся тогда. До следующего.
Спасибо большое. Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you for your attention, for your patience. Thank you for no questions, which means that I was good enough with my explanations. And I'm very happy to have this audience and to involve you in our beautiful native breeds, even from outside. Maybe you will be interested to import these dogs to your country, and altogether we will do our job better. Thank you. Спасибо большое.
See you soon.
Все.